What's up? Happy Tuesday. My name is Thiago Harvey. This is my beautiful, amazing wife, Crystal Rose Harvey.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about something that made a really big difference in our relationship. And it was kind of this phrase or agreement or promise, really, that we stumbled across in a personal growth class, a landmark seminar that has really made a profound difference in our relationship.
So we'll just start out by asking you where you stand in your relationship. And if you think, oh, well, we have great trust. I trust my husband. He trusts me. That's awesome. There is a way to measure that, I think. And I also believe that trust is a muscle that we build. And it's something that, especially early on in a relationship or in a relationship recovering from, say, something that happened that challenged the trust. And that can come in many forms. We'll talk about that in a minute. But ultimately, try this phrase on and see if this is something that you could honestly look at your partner and say, I will do anything that you ask.
Anything.
I will do anything you ask. Could you honestly look at your partner and say that? And then the other side of that your partner would say is, I will be responsible with what I ask for. And this is really powerful. It seems simple, but early on in our relationship, I mean, we met and it was fireworks. I'm sure that that's been the experience for a lot of people in their relationships. You know, you meet, fireworks go off, and you dive right in. And we got engaged, I think, 5 months after we met, and we got married 9 months later. So we were working on getting to know each other even after our marriage. I mean, really, a growing couple is always going to be working on getting to know each other, but even just the initial fundamentals of fitting two lives together, two people that were used to being single, were happy being single and had our own lives, mending those together, it took some work in the beginning that I think surprised us a little bit. So we dove into a lot of personal development together, and this phrase came up in one of our classes when we were struggling a little bit with, well, what would you say we were struggling with? The thing that kept coming up was golf. And
if you're in a relationship, you know that it's never really the surface level problem.
Right.
That's the actual problem. Like, for example, I know that she doesn't hate golf. I know that she doesn't hate hitting a little white ball around a course. She may hate the time it takes to finish a round. And honey, I'm working on that. I'm trying to speed that up. You know, the better I get, that should be faster. But in all honesty, what she really hated about it was that I would come home much later, oftentimes, than when I said I was going to be home. And it wasn't that I was even coming home late or later than I said. It was the fact that I wasn't being my word. The fact that I would say, hey, I'm going to be home in about 5 hours. I'll be home for dinner, whatever. And I'd get home like 6.5 hours later. And, you know, you want to throw some salt on that wound? I would say, like, why is this such a big deal? Like, okay, it's an hour difference in our day. So what? Like,
and then
what's the problem?
Yeah, and it would turn into, why are you telling me what to do? I mean, if you've ever
like, I didn't have the freedom to like just play some golf.
I don't
like,
have the freedom.
You know, once a week or maybe a couple times a week. Like, why does it matter what I'm doing with my time?
And then on my side, I'm like, why does it matter? Why am I so mad about this? Why am I so frustrated around this? And I mean, this was, again, really early on in our relationship, but hearing those phrases and adopting those phrases that we just shared with you made a really big impact. And how do we go about actually meaning those phrases? How do we get to a point where I can honestly say, I will do anything that you ask? And I think when you're actually able to say that, I trust that Thiago is not only being responsible for his happiness, he's considering my happiness in his life. And he genuinely wants my happiness because he loves me. And I think so often in relationships, we get into a trap of, I need to protect my happiness because you care about your happiness more than mine. And it can be this cycle of I need to protect myself. And there's something called Ray, one of our mentors, Ray Higdon, he talks a lot about sacred wounds and how when we are hurt, we go to protection mode, right? And we all have these different feelings that come up. Sometimes it can be from childhood, different things, but they keep recurring even in current relationships. And we go into like a protection state.
And golf is our example. This can look different in a lot of different relationships. For example, imagine you're getting serious with your woman or your man, depending on who you are, and you have a friend prior to that relationship of the opposite sex.
Oh, this one comes up a lot for people.
Right. And let's say like you may have had a romantic episode or two, or, you know, maybe you had some romantic experiences with this person who's now just your friend, genuinely. And now you're serious with this new woman or this new man.
If you've ever been in this type of a situation, what do you think? Is it okay to maintain opposite sex friendships? I think that there are people that would be on both sides of this.
Well, and I'd say like the added caveat is opposite sex friendships with people that you've had a romantic past with.
I think that's true. And also something that I noticed with some of my opposite sex friendships that I had while I was in relationship with somebody, once that relationship ended, guess who was hitting on me? Yeah. Right. So it's not always just if there's been a romantic past, there might not have been an opportunity for a romantic past in that situation. So we really have to look at
vultures.
We really have to look at, and there are a lot of opposite sex relationships that we both still have maintained, that are fully respectful, and we actually become friends. Like we're all welcome, we're all invited.
But that might just be an example related to, hey, we're serious now. You can't be friends with that person anymore. Imagine that scenario where, hey, I would love it if you stopped talking to Jose because you and Jose, y'all hooked up one time and now I'm just uncomfortable with that. And you might be like, well, what the heck? Me and Jose, we're totally platonic now. Like that's in the past. And that's not fair because he's a really good friend of mine. Like, how do you take I'll do anything you ask and I'll be responsible for what I ask for and apply it to something like the friendships, or maybe it's just not being your word around golf. I mean, how does that actually work?
So I think there's a lot of unpacking to do in all of that because every situation is different. Every situation has its different layers. And ultimately, it boils down to personal responsibility. And if I am considering saying, Thiago, this relationship that you have
with golf,
no, with somebody, we're just using
Josette.
An example. Sure, like another woman, right? This relationship that you have, it's actually very uncomfortable for me, and I would like for you to stop talking to her because of our agreement. I know that you would. He would just stop talking to her if he's being his word and true to our agreement, which is the assumption in this. So if I say, Thiago, stop talking to her, great, right? He's going to do that. Now, my job before
yeah, you can have one of those.
My job in this before.
Come over here.
Oh, sorry, guys. Courage is here to say hi. Hi, buddy.
Here, I'll open it. Here, keep talking, babe. Keep talking, babe. Come here, Courage.
Hi.
Come here.
I don't think anybody can see you.
Where are they?
They're on the other side.
Yep.
Yeah. So my responsibility, if I'm going to ask that, is to first consider, why is this bothering me? Is there any way that maybe I'm just insecure? And is this warranted? Is this fair to Thiago to eliminate a relationship based on my insecurity? Or can I genuinely sense that there are other intentions from the opposite sex that maybe Thiago isn't aware of? Where is this coming from? Have there been any boundaries crossed? And ultimately, it's up to me first before I make that request to determine where that is rooting from. And honestly, in a super healthy, awesome interaction, if there was something going on, it wouldn't even take me saying something or making the request. Thiago would have already handled that on his own. And I trust that he would do that. We really haven't had an opposite sex issue in our relationship ever. Again, this is just a an example that I do think a lot of people really deal with. But ultimately, it's just a matter of, I'll do anything you ask. I'll be responsible with what I ask for. And that is a genuine trust. That's also putting the relationship first, because a lot of people say, oh, my girl is number one or my guy is number one, but I'm actually going to maintain and prioritize this friendship that I had previous to our relationship. And I'm going to maintain and prioritize my freedom or what I think is most important to me, while not considering that this opposite sex relationship is damaging the relationship you say you're prioritizing. That's really what it boils down to. I think one thing that's really important to remember is, when you're in a trusting, honest relationship, you can always question behavior. It's okay to have these conversations. It's not that like Chiago asks and I just have to do it. It's like, we can have conversations about, why are you making that request? Can you explain to me? I'm trying to understand. But really coming from a place of genuine understanding. And oftentimes it ends in compromise, that we both feel cared for, heard, seen, understood in. And so you question behavior, but you don't question intent. If you really adopt that the intention is pure, coming from the other person, you're going to be in a really solid standing, as opposed to coming from a place of constantly on the defense. And if you're in a position where you're constantly in defense mode and you have trust issues and you aren't able to say this or to really go all in on these statements because you don't trust that your partner really has your best interest in heart, I don't know. I would consider maybe that's not the partner for you. And if you're really able to show up to a relationship this way and you're really wanting something like that, you got to find somebody who matches your commitment level, or you are literally going to drive yourself insane. People show us who they are more than they tell us, right? Listen to more what you're seeing than what you're hearing.
And this is really a practice. Like, this is a trust building exercise, because sometimes to gain more trust, you have to take risks, right? And what I mean by that specifically is, like, you have to act on good faith. Like Crystal was mentioning, owning the fact that like her intent is pure. When she asked me not to speak to a woman, or if she asked me not to golf this week, I can't take that as, wow, she's just really being selfish.
She's trying to tell me what to do.
She's just trying to control me. Like, what's her problem? I have to shift my mind from maybe a narrative or a story that I've created about the person, which a lot of times when we get defensive, like she mentioned, is our automatic reaction. It's our first go-to. We're programmed for this. So this is something that we've had to work on. This is not natural.
I'd call it a foundation of our relationship, though. I really would. This is a foundational principle of how we operate in our relationship. And I think that it has worked profoundly for us.
It's something that we've really had to build on, because some of the natural things that people do, and this has happened in our relationship, is like, okay, well, I really want to go do this thing. Like, you should do this same thing with your friends. Like, what's your issue with me doing it? I wouldn't have a problem if you did it. And this is where the golden rule sometimes can come up short. You might have an issue, which is a projection of importance or priority. Something like, for example, golf for me is something I've been playing since I was 7 years old. It's something that I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite ways to get outside. It's one of my favorite ways to spend time, not just with my boys or my guy friends, but like, it's something that I want to do more with you. It's something that I want to do more with our kids. And so it's something that's like a big part of me. And if she came in and was just like, I want you to stop golfing, we'd talk about it. we would work that out and probably come to some kind of compromise. But my immediate reaction, if she said that in the past, would have been like, that's selfish. That's horrible. And by having more of these conversations, by really coming from the place of like, wow, this is important to her. There's something here probably deeper than golf that I haven't uncovered yet. If she's so adamant that I stop golfing or that I spend my time doing something else. And a lot of times what you'll uncover through these conversations, or what we uncovered, I'll say, is that the issue that we were arguing over wasn't even the real issue.
Nothing to do with it.
I would say sometimes it looked like me not being my word, which is a big issue, right? Me showing up later than I said I would, me not being dependable, right? If you can't depend on your man even to come home when he says he's going to, how do you think you're going to trust him in a life or death situation? Probably not. And, you know, weird as it sounds, I'm saying this aloud and even sounds a little weird. I might have been contributing to her feeling unsafe by me simply showing up later playing golf than I said I would. I know it sounds crazy, guys. I'm sure you're over there like, what?
Or a lot of women, I mean, I know I would be more concerned for your safety too. You know, I'm so glad that you really don't do this anymore, but I would be, is he okay? Why hasn't he called? A lot of times it wasn't like, what are you doing? Who are you with? It was like, wow, you said you'd be home at this time and you're not. Have you been in a car accident? Have you been, you know, those types of things. And those are the things to really consider the impact on the other person. So I guess just to, I know we've been all over the place with this, so I just want to bring it back together in these 3 steps of how to really build and practice trust is committing to the statements, I'll do anything you ask, and I will be responsible with what I ask for. And that would go both ways, equally on both sides. It's like a full agreement and all in agreement for this. And if you can't get there, start digging into why. What is there for you? What fears are there? This could start a really beautiful relationship. And again, this doesn't just happen overnight. This is something that is a practice and that you build on. And when you get to the point where you can genuinely say that and you can genuinely believe that your partner is going to look out for your best interest just as much, if not more than their own, that is a place of trust. And it's just a beautiful feeling. And then, yeah, I'll do anything you ask and I'll be responsible with what you ask or with what I ask for. Being personally responsible within that. Number 2, prioritizing your partner's happiness and avoiding the golden rule and projecting that what you care about, they care about. It's always a big deal. Never say it's not a big deal, because if they are hurt, your partner is hurt by something, it is a big deal. And if you make it their problem, you're never gonna get anywhere. And if you really just feel like, oh, my partner's insecure and they have a problem all the time, maybe you're not with the right partner. If you're not willing to do the work to bring them to where they do feel safe enough to trust you, then maybe you're not the right partner for them and they're not the right partner for you. But it is always a big deal. And if you're constantly saying it's not a big deal, you are deteriorating and killing the trust in your relationship. And the third thing is you can question behavior, but never question intent. It can feel very hurtful to hear, well, you just don't care about me.
Yeah, a lot of times this argument can spiral out of control because now it feels like our character's being attacked, our identity's being attacked. And if you've ever had your identity or your character attacked, I'm sure the claws came out. You know, I'm sure you probably didn't let that go easily. And then it can just spiral into saying things you don't mean, you know, being really upset with each other, being hurtful, being, you know, vengeful, when really at the core of it, what are we fighting for?
Our needs.
What are we really committed to in this situation? And that's a question that can always bring you back to what you really want and getting back on the same page, because, you know, you always want to be in the same book. Even if you're not on the same page, asking that question at the end is like, what am I really committed to? Can really bring you back to being in alignment with your partner. It's something that we do all the time. And it's a great tool because, again, when these things are spiraling, the blood flow starts to flow to your lizard brain. You just want to fight or flight. Like sometimes you're just like, I want to check out of this conversation, or now I'm throwing hurtful things back. And this can really just help you get back to like your true commitment. And that's a loving, strong marriage. That's a loving, strong relationship.
Full of trust
and freedom.
And respect. Yes. And adopt the belief the intention is always pure. Adopt the belief the intention is always pure. Trust your partner.
Yeah, that's a practice. That's a practice. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not about being perfect. We are far from perfect in our relationship. These things still come up regularly. So, you know, if it's something we're sharing, it's probably something we're working on too, which is really cool, because at the end of the day, we want you to have an absolutely amazing, trusting, beautiful relationship, just like the one that we're striving for, that we're working on all the time. And this is something that we got from Landmark course. We
so
heard
many years
we
ago.
heard
before
Tony
we were
also.
even, I think we were engaged to be married when we adopted this. And yeah, it's
Tony
been-
mentioned the intention, trust the intention from your partner. And it's so easy to just revert back to our stories, our sacred wounds where we've been hurt, and we just bring that back. And if you're tired of being in a relationship, but it feels like you're recreating the same pattern, or you're seeing the same men show up in your life or the same women show up, odds are you are the common denominator. And if we can work on just moment by moment, fight by fight, situation by situation, changing what we say about it, changing our behavior a little bit, then we get this brand new, amazing relationship that we've always wanted. And I know I'm blessed to say that I have that with you. And a big part of that is little tricks like this.
Yeah. Agree. I don't have anything else to say. So yeah, if this helps you at all, we'd love to hear about that. If you can think of anybody who might benefit from learning these practices, we'd love if you'd share it. And yeah, we'll be back on here sharing some more of these little gold nuggets we've adopted along the way.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we'll talk to you later.
Ciao.